Welcome back to another ESG football recap review experience from my recent playtest session throughout this weekend, which went down on April 18th throughout April 20th. So that's the reason why you guys haven't seen any videos in the past 3 days. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Each playtest session, there has been some massive improvements and new things that we have been experiencing and testing. So that's great to see. As well, with that being implemented, there's always newer issues that pop up. And of course, the devs is always aware, and this is why we're testing it. What they have done with ESG football is mind blowing. The things that they're implementing for the gameplay mechanics itself is absolutely game changing and very innovative. So this weekend playtest was a big focus on tuning up the sliders for how often people end up fumbling, also resulting in people having a less rating threshold. You will end up fumbling more compared to a certain carrying rating that's over a threshold. You won't fumble as much, but that slider itself was very high, so regardless, it was like a lot of people was fumbling regardless. Now the reason for this was to once again balance on certain player builds, especially small player builds that are 5'5" in height and 140 in weight. This is for the people that love to create just speedsters. And when you get hits on speedsters, you should expect them to fumble a ton because they're focused on speed. They don't have any ratings or anything else catered to carrying the ball and things of that sort. So this is why ESG football, when it comes to numerous different builds, they are aware of trying to balance and not make anything super OP. So that's why I say a lot of people is not going to be able to really copy each other and thinking that they have a meta build, because ESG is on top of that stuff, and that's why they're making a very well balanced game. So of course, in the past couple of sessions, most of the people have been making, small, speedy builds. So even in the previous playtest session, they focus once again on small builds. So there has been a ton of things working against and trying to balance the small builds and have a negative impact for people that just focus on those type of builds. And it doesn't mean that you don't have to make those type of builds, but you have to be strategic on how you're going to approach with that build and fit a scheme around playing with that build. So they're making it where you can still make those type of builds. You just got to be smart about how you're going to use it. But of course, that's not the only build that they focus on. Everywhere else gets kind of like touched up and tweaked. But as far as up to this point, in every playtest session, the small builds has been nerfed a whole ton from what I noticed. Now, I didn't mind the tweaking and upping the fumbles, even though it was too high and everybody was fumbling, but it made it a great learning curve. Now, it did make it interesting in the games alone because it made the games more difficult to compete in, and it came down to whoever was going to make a big play and get rewarded for it, and also prolonging the games when it's back-to-back fumbles on every possession. It just made it much more entertaining. So it was like a 50-50 deal when it came to tuning up the sliders the way they did. As far as their learning curve, especially for the new players that got implemented, this was a great way for them to really focus on trying to cover up the ball, because in the past a lot of people didn't do that, even though you still had people fumbling, but not as much as what happened during this playtest session. A lot of people did not cover up the ball, and or they didn't make builds with high carrying ratings. So the fumble aspect was still there, but like I said, this playtest session really helped those new players adapt and get used to covering up the ball and making certain builds where they have higher carrying ratings so they don't fumble as much. So this was a great way that ESG tested this slider for the fumbles, because it adapted players to approach the game a little bit more differently. So like I said, the past previous playtest sessions, people were focused on small, speedy builds, lightweight players, and players that don't focus on carrying ratings, and they still fumble, but not as much as what they did. So it gave them a different approach how they went about their builds. Now, of course, it was frustrating at certain times because it was like, man, it's 4th and inches or 4th and 1. You're trying to run a fullback dive in the red zone to either win the game or at least score a touchdown, and then a fumble instantly happens. And yeah, that's the frustration part of it. But it was like at the same time, if you was on the defensive point of view and you get that crucial stop that may be a game changer. Like I had a moment where it was 14-14. The game is up to 15 points, right? And, it came down to that situation where we needed that one stop from making the team win, cause a fumble, and a player ends up scooping it and going the distance opposite side of the field and winning the game. So, with the sliders being too high for fumbling, but having moments like that, it was crazy. And that's why it makes the game much more entertaining in those type of situations. But then, of course, you have the frustrating moments where you're catching a ball, and before you even take 1 to 2 steps after catching the ball, you're instantly fumbling. So there's that type of frustrating moment. So, of course, this is all testing purposes, and that's why we're hashing out all these issues beforehand, and then, of course, testing new things. And the devs is already aware. They just want to see how things play out, and they already have things in place that has a fix for everything. So even though you have these issues play out then and there, the game itself is highly enjoyable, and you're going to play it regardless because it has such a great feeling, and it gives you addiction to continue to play it. And even when the issues happen, it doesn't even frustrate you. Like when I play Madden or college football, I get highly pissed off. I get so frustrated at the gameplay itself. The issues that happen just in the beta of ESG football, it doesn't really frustrate me like the frustration I get when playing Madden college football, which is crazy to me. So it's like if an issue happens, I just kind of shrug it off in ESG football and just continue to play because I know that the gameplay itself is just that entertaining, it's that enjoyable. And this is crazy to say because we're in the beta stage of just testing things. So imagine when the full game comes out and it has all these issues addressed and fixed. I mean, this game is going to take off. Now, of course, there was other things that was implemented during this playtest session. Not going to get too much into it. Just want to focus on the key things about it. And of course, that was with the fumbles, slider being ramped up. Now, I believe in the last playtest that we had, it was kind of frustrating with the gameplay because there was a lot of catching, couldn't really catch the ball. There was issues with passing, and then they kind of went back to the previous build and got smooth gameplay. So having that back and being able to join the game was great. But then also we had to deal with the fumble issues. But I mean, you still had great games regardless, but the games was much longer because it took a while for people to actually score. So those are the expectations going from test session to test session, and that's what the beta is for, right? You got to give feedback where it's due, report newer issues and things of that sort, so ESG can make a quality game and fix all these issues before they release. And once again, having this done speeds up the process for the game to be pushed out much more quicker than anticipated. Anyways, good news is that we're on track for weekly test sessions, so that's great. It was frustrating just waiting every other week for the test session to play. And man, the addiction is real, guys. Like having that wait is like I didn't feel like playing anything else outside of ESG. And having that long wait just killed me every single time. But this week we're gonna have the tournament go down. So if you guys wasn't participating in this last playtest session, you guys won't be able to play in this upcoming tournament for this week's test session run. Now, also, if you guys are interested in playing this beta, there's still opportunity. All you guys got to do is check out the links down below in the description to the Discord waiting room, which you guys see right here. We currently have 5,700 members currently in there. That's where you guys can follow the information to go ahead and fill out the application, sign the NDA, and you guys gotta pass the questionnaire in order to be accepted into the actual Discord beta playtest room. So make sure you guys check out the links down below in the description if you guys are interested in playing in any future PlayStation 5 beta playtest sessions. That was the goal though for that Discord waiting room, was to get 5,000 members. So continue to invite your friends so you guys can have an opportunity to play with your friends and show you guys skills as an individual player or as a team and compete against other players and help give feedback for ESG football. Now, after this weekend playtest in the tournament, they will be implementing a gameplay mechanic that is going to be blowing everybody's mind, especially on the defensive side of the ball. It's absolutely game changing, and it only works for this type of game of what they're going to be introducing, because how it's played, how it's all individual players playing. So, for instance, if you're amazing at lurking in college football Madden, right? So imagine playing with other users with their created players and playing on defense, and how everybody's able to lurk on defense. Well, what I'm about to kind of give you guys a breakdown of and try to showcase it the best way I can is going to absolutely blow your mind. You guys have to be in this beta in order to experience this feature because it's absolutely game changing. So especially when this game does come out, it's going to be rough for a lot of you guys to adapt to this game because of these things that we never been used to. So, of course, I got to use college football in a way to present this explanation of this gameplay mechanic that ESG football is going to be introducing. So, let me go ahead and break this down the best way I can. So, for defensive players, they're implementing basically this defensive player awareness. So you guys take a look at this play in College Football 25. Not the play in general, but of course based off the assignments, right? So if you got a zone coverage or man coverage, this is how it's going to be dictating the player awareness field of view. So imagine this, you're using your my player, you're locked on to your player like a linebacker or a DB, right? So you guys take a look at this play. It shows that I'm assigned with playing this player because he's coming into my zone coverage. So basically in ESG football, depending on your player's build of a certain rating, which is going to be, your awareness to see the field, right? You're going to have this like view of sight. So of course, if you have high awareness field of view rating, you're going to be able to see all the skilled players going out for a pass. And then if it's lower, you're going to have a smaller diameter radius, which is going to be focusing on probably these two players within your field of view range. And then, of course, if it's absolutely terrible, you're probably just going to be focused within this radius that you have just around you. So when you're trying to lurk around, you can't see other players outside of this area that you're in unless somebody enters your diameter circle radius, then you're going to be able to see that player. So let me go ahead and explain and showcase a little bit more of how this actually works. So basically when you're playing coverage, you're going to be able to see every single time anything behind the line of scrimmage. So you're going to see your pass rushers pass rushing, interacting with the blocks, engaging with the lineman, right? You're going to see the quarterback. So anything behind the line of scrimmage like you guys see here. Now, so of course, if you're in zone, somebody comes within your area, you're going to see him within your radius circle, right? Or if you're manned up, you're going to be able to see the person that you're assigned to. Now, if you don't have great player awareness field of view rating and you got nobody within like close proximity of you, you're not going to see him. So you guys see right here, that player coming into my zone, I'm not going to see him because my field of view rating is terrible. And of course, he's not close to my, radius circle where I can be able to see him. Now, of course, if he comes into your field of view, you're going to see him and you're going to be able to play him. But because he's only within your range, and this is how big your diameter of field of view rating is, you're not going to be able to see the other receivers running the routes. Basically, those players will be completely invisible. Now, of course, if this player gets outside of your zone coverage and you don't follow with him, then he will also turn invisible and you have no clue where he is at. Reason why is because your field of view awareness, right? So, why is this going to be a thing in ESG football? Because it's going to limit the amount of people that you can look around the field and see. This is where it's going to come heavy on communication and possibly looking at your teammates and seeing how they're covering a player that you cannot see. So imagine you're playing safety, right? And you don't have like an Ed Reed field of view rating. You can't see the whole field. You just have a closed diameter circle around you. And of course, if anybody comes within your range, probably within like 5 yards, you'll be able to see them. But you guys see, like right here, you won't be able to see any of the receivers. Depending on your player build, if you're heavily focused on offense and you're playing DB as your second position, well, you're going to have poor field of view vision because you have no defensive ratings that is applied to that. So you got to make sure somebody eventually crosses in your diameter circle, which is your field of view. Like you guys will see here, then the player will pop up and then you can be able to cover him. But of course, once he pops up, you may not be able to see that other invisible receiver. And of course, if you have a little bit higher overall, where you can see a little bit more field of view, probably within like 10 or 12 yards, then of course, you're going to end up seeing that extra player within your radius view of range. So, this is going to make a huge change on how a lot of players is going to go about building their player. They want to make sure they have a little bit of defensive coverage focusing on this rating so it can help them out to see more players around the field so they're able to cover. And if not, well, you're going to have a hard time covering anybody because you're not going to be seeing anybody running routes. So having this dynamic gameplay mechanic is really going to make a difference when it comes to people trying to cover and they're unable to cover multiple receivers at once because they're unable to see them. And this is something that I have never seen done before, and I don't think anybody else would be able to perfect it like ESG is going to perfect this. So you know how in college football or Madden, you see people accidentally switch to a D tackle and they can just pull off a pass block and go cover somebody and cover like a tight end like 10 yards down the field and pick them off. Well, imagine trying to do that in ESG football, but because you're a lineman, you have no pass coverage stat with a field of view vision. You're not going to be able to see where that tight end is at all. So this is going to limit those type of things happening in ESG football. So, like I said, this is a game changer, an innovative change that is going to be absolutely crazy to witness in this game. So this is something to be on the lookout for in the next couple playtest sessions. Not sure when exactly, but I know it'll be sometime after this tournament session for us to witness it in the beta. So if you guys want to experience this feature, you guys will have to apply and sign up for the PlayStation 5 closed beta and hopefully get accepted in to witness this greatness. Because guys, ESG football is continuing to blow my mind. With every test session, of course, like I said, they're implementing new things little by little and we're testing it. This is the only way to make this game great. We, the community, giving feedback, helping out the devs to perfect greatness. And once this game comes out, you guys are going to be so highly addicted to this game, you're not even going to bother buying another college football or Madden game ever again. I kid you not. And then once you guys play the game itself, you guys are going to see how much better the gameplay is over college football and Madden. it's 10 times better. And we're not even close to experiencing all the things that they actually have within the gameplay, even the animations and much more. We only got probably, I want to say, like 5% of being able to witness what the gameplay has to offer. And like I said, they're introducing things little by little, and there's so much more to this game that we haven't even seen yet. So, you diehard Madden fans and college football fans, yeah, you guys may consider those games because you like college or you like using NFL teams. But those that love to play like a career type of game mode using your mod player, this is the game for you because once again, every position is being controlled by an actual human being. So you have to depend on your teammates to play their part, play their position, communicate with them to make things possible. You cannot take over a match yourself. Like, who would have thought having a simulation football game based off football and details that makes it much more realistic would be this fun? And ESG football has presented that fun factor in a realistic simulation style. It's mind blowing to me. Anyways, I want to shout out all those that have joined the beta and that has been supporting my channel. I was able to play with you guys, interact with you guys. It was a great experience. I'm looking forward to seeing more of you guys that are supporting my channel to compete against and compete with, and overall just to enjoy this game with you guys as a community. So, thank you guys for all the support, and once again, you guys need to support this game as well. Try it out for yourself. Go ahead and check out the links down below in the description. Join the waiting room Discord, or just simply fill out the application or follow within the Discord on how to apply and much more. So, other than that, make sure you guys stay tuned by subscribing for any updates about ESG football. If anything changes, I will notify you guys. Also, follow my social media accounts. Links is down below in the description. Till next time, I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out. Peace.